So I got to tell you that Silicon Valley Recovery changed my life, saved my life, and I am forever grateful for the system that they have in place for recovery, for addiction, as well as mental health. And it is my honor to have on tonight the CEO of Silicon Valley Recovery, Sonja Dahl. How are you, Sonja?
I'm good. Thank you, Justin. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for spending the evening with me. Um, I know some great things have been happening in your life personally, which I'll give you the chance to talk about. Uh, you know, Going to recovery is a scary, daunting task. And I know for me personally, it was, I was done. I was so done. And I've talked to people that are in recovery. They're like, once you make that decision that you're done, it's just go do the work. And then from there, just life gets better. And I'm thankful that I was there because I, I don't know what any other recovery system looks like, but I know that this worked for me in so many ways, and it
Was that
empowered me.
it was your first time? I forgot.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
didn't know. Cool.
yeah. No, I had dealt with something for 20 years, weed daily for about 20 years, and alcohol on and off. And you basically, it was the alcohol that really did me in. And it was about a good year and a half. I'd stopped for about 6 years, but it was the last year and a half that, coming into basically the end of July of 23, that I'm like, I need help. And I went the conventional route of going into ER after, a bender, if you will, and then got in front of a psychologist and a psychiatrist, but it wasn't enough. It just, because I was still left to my own vices. I was still left to trying to live my life. I had no education on understanding truly what this thing called addiction. And it was a failed attempt. And I can see how a lot of people who attempt that route are not going to be successful. They need to give themselves, the starting point of 30 days, which we know it's obviously longer than that to get where they need to be, but 30 days is a good starting point to clean your system out and get the education, and then go into some sort of an aftercare program and start, assimilating yourself back into your new life, and hopefully become the best version of yourself.
We changed our length of stay to
What did you
37.
change?
Our length of stay, we're not 30 days anymore, we're
Really?
37 days. Yeah, because we're like 7-day detox.
Really?
So now it's just this funny thing we tell everyone 37 days. And I'm like, how did you come up with that number? Just trust us, it's right.
Yeah. Well, I was on a 10-day detox. So,
Yeah. So
um, so yeah, yeah, but that's okay. It's, when we think about it going into it, we're like, how can I even survive this? But then, I'm over 9 months now, and I've had I've had maybe twice I've had thoughts about using, but it's never gotten to the point of craving. And I think a lot of that was purely, the mental health aspect and
right.
getting my mental health figured out and understanding who I was. And that was, such a big component of it that I think that, I know some recovery systems are missing that piece. But I know that Silicon Valley Recovery is a dual diagnosis approach, and I think that, to be in an addiction, right, with the way the chemicals are in the brain, and the modifications that take place, that you have to address the mental health. I think that's the only way that you're going to be successful, because I think that a lot of times addiction is an effect, right? So what becomes the cause? And
Absolutely.
so when we spend the time to look at, well, why did we? Because I know that there was a point in my life when I was younger that I didn't need these things to survive. I didn't need these things to feel okay about myself. And so what happens in life that puts us down that path that causes us to not be able to live without it. So we're going to do two parts to this tonight. The first part is that, as a lot of, the most empathetic people I've ever met in the world are those that are in either recovery or are helping others get, into recovery. And I know that you have a little bit of a backstory as far as a struggle yourself, prior to getting into this business. And I'm going to kind of give you the floor and let you kind of talk about that.
Okay. Well, I come from a lot of trauma. So when I had a lot of childhood trauma, so I started using really early. It was my coping. So like you said, it's the dual diagnosis thing. My main diagnosis was trauma. Just and not knowing how to deal with it, being about, when you're a kid. And also, I was born in 1974, and so I was smack dab Gen Xers, and no one talked about trauma or there wasn't therapy or something like that, but it was like, shh, y'all have about it. We're gonna, anyway. So, yeah, so I just was trying to change the way I felt from a young age, rightfully so, I think. And right around that same time, my mother went into Al-Anon. So my mom's got, 35 years in Al-Anon, which is awesome. Her and I have a great relationship, probably because we're in recovery, both of us, But yeah, I mean, that's a long story short, is that by the time I was 19, I was a drug user. I was trying to jump out of high school. I was traveling all over. I was being a full psycho. I was very angry at so much anger that was totally connected to depression, anxiety, and all things, that were all born from the trauma. No ability to let go. And so I should have been dead, right? And when I was about, 1998, so I was like 24 years old. I was in Libya, New Orleans. I want to hope you remember Johnny. Was Johnny there when we were there? Okay, so Johnny and I were living in New Orleans, and we were running and gunning, as they say, boogeums actually, but just together in New Orleans for several years. We were in a band together, and it was just, but anyway, we lost everything, and I had my first one. It was really ugly. It was really lonely. And I was a shell of a person, and I didn't really care, So I had this moment, like a weird moment. In recovery, you talk about moments of clarity, and I had one. And I just knew, like, I had to get out of there. I just had to get. Am I allowed to cut this podcast?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
I was like, I just knew my life depended on it. So that was the first time I got clean, and I did 12-step recovery, and I did it for a while, and I always had a call with the first step, so my pattern was like, I got 4 years and never went past that 4th step. I try it. I'm like trying to share a little bit of it, like maybe at 5th step. I did all of that, right? And then I would relapse, and I was out twice for 2 years. But when I got clean the first time, like 30 days later, I got pregnant with my son. I have one son. He'll be 26 in July. And so was getting clean this last time, was all about, you mentioned the alcohol, it's all about just being able to just hold on to that alcohol. I just wanted to be able to hold on to that, and I couldn't, the obsession was immediate as soon as I started, I couldn't stop. And I could never stop thinking about it, no matter how hard I tried. Even if I could have some self-will sometimes, that I would eventually get caught in that cycle of addiction where I didn't have a choice anymore. I had to use no matter what was going on. No matter what I wanted, I had to anyway. I think that's such an important part about the addiction disease, because when we're in it, we can't choose to get out. There's something major has to happen, and that's why treatment centers were good, because that's a way to kind of remove ourselves. So when I got here, I had to remove myself from my environment. I was in Oregon by this time, and my brother, who also he has about I think he just celebrated in February 17 years clean. He had a couple of years ahead of me, and he was like, come to my house, do clean. He was like his rehab, right? So I it was weird. It got harder and harder to get clean too, like each time I did it and when I sobered up, it was more difficult because my thinking, my brain had more damage. And so that was my rehab. It was my brother's call, sit here, shut up, here's the remote, go to meetings, that's all you have to do for 30 days. I didn't ever get to go to rehab. I was a single mom. My son came, it was the summer, so he became, from being with his dad, and so I had to raise him. And I had this feeling like I thought for a long time like I was gonna use again. I always feel like the first, 4 months or something, I was really like I was fully in the recovery community. I was doing that morning, noon and night. I was in meetings. Like, that's how I stayed clean. And this was before I knew anything about addiction. I had no education on addiction yet. I had been, in another field. And I was detoxing and shaking and on the verge of a seizure, like in the meetings. And I didn't have any idea how many I was at the time. But I didn't, and I just thought I was a piece of shit. And I didn't really think I deserved anything. I had my self-esteem was, but I knew my son did. And that was all he had. So I really just did it for him. And then at some point along the way, I knew that it was the most important thing. No matter what was happening, I had to stay clean. And I had to stay sober. And I had to do this thing. So I didn't qualify for membership, they say like in 12-step recovery, the only requirement is the desire to stop. And I did not have that for a long time. But what's amazing to me, as I said, you can do it anyway. You can do it if you made the decision, right? No matter what you want. But what we want doesn't matter if we made a commitment to decision. And so, I finally made that commitment and that decision. And I really like that you mentioned that because, I think once we've gotten out of the cycle of our addiction, we have the ability to make a choice again, right? So we're not we're not at the mercy of our disease anymore once we've stopped for a while. And then it's a choice to go back. Right. So especially when you get all the tools and all the things, so then it's the process of, how to live life as a fully feeling human, and with all of the anxiety and all of the madness and all of the, emotional roller coasters that go with that, and I did that with support from other people. I did it. I was really lucky, I feel like, I had so many women and so many people in recovery supporting me. And I also think that I'm lucky because I was able to go into those kind of meetings. I don't have social anxieties like some people where it's really, I think that environment can be really difficult for people, right? And so I've always had a lot of compassion for that person that has a really hard time going into the meeting and connecting like that, because connecting is the key. That's what my whole master's thesis was about, was, attachment theory and all those parts of our brain that are depleted from the trauma and the drugs and all of that from a young age, or just from lack of secure attachment. And then we, are filling that need, right? And some people have a really hard time connecting to others. So they're, I love the Zoom platform. I think that I wish we had done that before the pandemic. Because, well, for one thing, as a single mother raising my son in 12-step recovery, it would have been really nice if people were screaming to be able to mute. And so there's a lot of reasons that I think it's really, it's so awesome, the way that we have more access to people to get, that kind of recovery and to get in the atmosphere of recovery without having to walk into a big crowd. I love that part. So now my Friday is July 4th, 2010. So I'll have 14 years. And I'm really excited about this one.
Wow.
That's because it is on the coin. It says XIV. And I've been waiting for this one for 14 years. Because there's a whole thing what's that? Always that. Especially if you are, using that. And it's just been such a stigma, so I'm really very proud to prove that wrong and be a positive contributor to society. And, I think that, that's the best, that's a little short version.
Well, thank you for sharing. I guess, there's a lot to unpack here. So I guess my first question for you is, did you address the trauma?
That's a good question. So I'm still addressing the trauma. I feel like it's been a slow process. one thing that I did this last time in recovery was I just went through all the steps, and I was very fortunate to have a sponsor who explained to me that when you are abused and have things happen to you as a child, you don't have a part. You didn't have a part in that. And I came out with something I had a hard time tangling. And I just had all this resistance to it because it was, the whole 12-step thing is like, you're part, part in everything. And you have to write down all the people you're resentful to.
Right.
And so I'm like writing these people down. And then I have to figure out what my part is. And I just remember being pretty pissed about that, I don't understand I couldn't figure it out, and it just took the right person to be able to show him. And when she said that, I was like, the sky opened up. She said, you didn't have a part, you were a kid, and that's what happened. What your part is like what you're going to do about it now.
Right.
How are you going to be a victim of that? And what was really important for me to see was my self-seeking behavior around that, because my mantra was, you would be doing what I'm doing too if that happened to you. So, I hated a victimectomy. And I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
victimectomy, that's a new one. I like it.
Yeah. So I think that was important. And so then it kind of comes slowly. I actually think that when it comes to certain things like trauma, it's better to do a slow unpack, because my personal belief is that the psyche protects itself in a way, and especially our own recovery. I had to see for myself, I didn't remember everything right away, which I think is some kind of survival instinct, right? And it kind of comes slowly. And so I don't really believe that it would have been meant for me to just pull the lid off the can of worms really fast and like delve into some of that stuff right away, because I wasn't ready, especially, we're close to 2 years old, that go back 24 months. We're just trying to figure out life and like learn any way to live and do things and function in society and not, act out on all of these behaviors that we used to. And so, facing all of that stuff, it just wouldn't have been good for me. So I did some in the 12-step work, and I've done some later, long-term recovery. But yeah, I went to a retreat actually where you get 3 years worth of therapy in 6 days, no phones, no anything, and I worked on a lot of the family system stuff there, and did what I love is psychodrama, where you kind of play out the things that are happening. And you have people enroll as parts of your family, and you play out situations or scenarios that happen, and it kind of helps you kind of understand different points of view. And then it will also give an opportunity to say things to those people that enroll as your family members or whoever. And it's powerful. I thought it was super cheesy at first. I was like, gosh, there you go, but it was really intense, and it really helped me kind of work through some of that stuff and kind of see, like the whole picture, and to find some forgiveness and to find some just understanding. But yeah, the trauma work is ongoing.
And I think that from trauma, I think grief is obviously kind of tied into it, and there's obviously, you're grieving that younger self, right? You're grieving the fact that, that childhood could have been so much better, but you were done this youth, right? And that's, there's a little girl inside of you who's crying out for all of that. So I mean, I can imagine that it's heavy stuff. So when I came into SVR back in August, I dealt with a lot of unresolved grief. Some things were very traumatic to me. I lost a daughter in 2012, and my father dropped dead in 2016, and both of those things I never reconciled in my heart. And I wrote letters to both of them when I was there, and I just remember just gushing, I finally let some of this out. that had been inside of me for so long that I never properly grieved. And it was liberating to a point. Obviously the dreams were very intense, coming, getting clarity. And there was a morning where Tony there had to basically kind of like, take me into the office and kind of just help me calm down, because I had literally woken up from a dream that was so vivid, and it was traumatizing. It was like feeling, so much loss all over again. But at the same time, it was so needed. It was so needed. And those are the things I think that we're afraid to deal with, right? And that's why, the addiction is the numbing, the addiction is the forgetting, the addiction is the, let's get our dopamine to kick a little bit and help us feel better about, things that we don't want to deal with.
Just in a personal responsibility to deal with it, or to face it, or to see how we show up and how those things affect the way that we are with others, and how well, how we have maladaptive behaviors because of those things, and working on the, keeping the focus on our personal accountability for, how we're letting it show up is the part that I think is difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah. We don't recognize it, but of course, it does. It's infused in everything in our lives, right? Sure. In the way that we perceive things and just our thought processes, and it's depressing, right? I mean, there's nothing ever good that comes out of it if we don't address these things. And it just kind of kicks the can down the road to, ultimately at some point you're going to have to deal with it, or you're just going to end up with debilitating mental health and physical health from your use, right? It's interesting because you'd spoken about the way that, addictions have you thinking about it all the time. And I know that, I had a pretty religious marijuana habit for like 20 years, and it was daily. And I think the irony is that I feel like if I didn't drink, I may not have gone into rehab, because I thought that was going to be my bag. That was going to be my medicine, right? But I quit drinking for 2 6-year periods. And the first time I quit from 2008 to 2016. I played the game with, I felt like I had control of it. I was a changed person. Yeah. I was able to stop using it, even though I was still a weed smoker. But I had to quit within a year. And then I quit again from basically the beginning of 2017 all the way up until roughly, I think it was the middle of 22 is when I really kind of started up again. And that spiral was such a gnarly spiral. It was much more vicious than the previous time I had embarked on it, which obviously led me into rehab. But recently in IOP, I'm done with IOP, but I have an aftercare program. I've got a great group of sober friends, and we have one individual there who, she got clean, but it was one of those things where she just kept on kind of just wanting to still be part of the friends crowd and everything, and wanted to figure out a way that she could control her drinking. She really was at that point, even though this unfortunate soul was right. And this unfortunate soul had really done a number on her body. Really done a number on her body. And it was like, and so, but when she got clean and everything was fine, all the blood values, everything, the doctor's like, everything looks great, right? So she played this game with herself for 5 weeks, where she basically allowed herself to have a drink every now and then. And she even got herself a breathalyzer to see, how was her body processing it over versus what, a normal person's body would, because she knows the damage she's done. But she said one of the things that was driving me bonkers, because she ended up, she stopped after 5 weeks, because she said the one thing that was absolutely baffling to her and so frustrating was that as soon as she took that first sip, even if she waited a couple of days, she was constantly thinking about it. Constantly. And it was driving her mad. And that's what addiction does. We were all just baffled that she would put herself through that, but torture. It is what it is. Yeah, it is. It is torture. So do you find that you don't really have any triggers anymore? Do you still find that you have a craving every now and then?
I do. I think it's so interesting, because it's so, there's a side is that, which is, when you there's like algorithms for like these non-alcoholic things that like started coming up in my Instagram feed and stuff. And I was like, oh, and I clicked on one more. I was like, this is weird. I'm like non-alcoholic. And then there's these other ones that they're just like colors. And I was like, oh, what's in this? And I started like looking at it. And then I would just get all the time, all different kinds. And then I was trying to sad about it. I was like, and then I realized it's kava and it's mushrooms and it's like all these other things. I'm like, but I will like easily start to romance it. And just weird things. Like, I know exactly what my disease sounds like. You know, it's like, well, maybe when you're really old and it'll be all right. Or maybe if you move to Italy, you know, you could drink wine. Or maybe if you know, I'll get like these very angry thoughts, you know, and then I just go, oh yeah, that's my disease talking. Because everything good in my life is because I'm sober. And that's just the way it is, you know?
Right.
And I know, like, you know, I have to take pain medicine for certain. I have to have a total knee replacement this year. I have to take pain medicine, right? And so there's ways to be careful enough. Like, I don't ever touch the bottle and then somebody else and chip in and do all that kind of stuff. But because you can't hurt, we should be careful. But you know, I had the last surgery out, it was the same thing. I could hear it, you know, I could hear it talking to me. It's kind of going, I'm like, well, you know, they left you one from shave. You could just save it for tomorrow because if you don't need it, shave, you know, like this whole, like, it's such a mind fuck, you know? And so I love recovery because we're able to, like, it's like really important for me to compartmentalize and separate my addiction from what's real. And so I went, there she is, the hat. What's that you do? Try to trick me, you know, it's like there's this duality, you know, and it's so subtle sometimes, and that, you know, it really gets people. But I like what you said about the decision, you know, I always just go back to my commitment, my decision, like, it's in every day, you know, oh yeah, my commitment is to not to pay things apart so that I can recognize those thoughts as variety and recognize things like that, because it's, you know, I see people with lifetime clean or more even, and they get caught back in that insanity and go back out like with 20 years clean as over. And it just it blows me away, you know. So I think, like, what that tells me is that there are no guarantees, and so just because you have, you know, are in this over a long time doesn't really mean that you don't have to be diligent about your decision and to be in recovery. My sponsor always says the world record for recovery is 24 hours. And then I believe that too. You know, we have to just, and so I'm just so grateful that that hasn't been me, because I know it couldn't be me. I don't think it couldn't be me. And I think it's important, you know. Yeah, but I went a long time without cravings or triggers. I just like the little weird thoughts every once in a while. I still have using dreams and drinking dreams sometimes. It's weird. But I also work in the field, so I'm around people that are detoxing, and, you know, I just know I don't. So that might make it different for me.
Well, you know, I mean, there's something definitely to be said about, you know, if people get sober or clean and they don't do anything with that opportunity. Are you more miserable now that you're sober than you were when you were drinking or using? It's like, you know, what is the point what is the point then? I mean, if you're white knuckling it and you're not experiencing, you know, a new fullness of life and embracing it for what it may be, I mean, you know, I think that there's something to be said about that. I was talking to a therapist about it, and it's like, yeah, I mean, we've got to, you know, you've got to take the tools, you've got to go back out and experience life, you know, and all the feels that come with it. But also, you know, that there is a rediscovery of yourself, and it's okay to have, you know, just okay days. It's okay to feel like you're not accomplishing anything on any given day. You know, maybe that's just your period of rest. That's all right. Yeah. It's okay if you're going to binge, you know, for a couple of hours Netflix. Nobody's going to judge you for that. But, you know, it's learning to, I know that's light, right? But you know, there's, you know, it's not being so hard on ourselves. And I think that that's part of the addiction too, right? Is that I do believe that people that are in addiction, active addiction, are aware of what they're doing to themselves. It's just they can't stop it. And so because of that, there's this overriding shame and this guilt that comes along with it. And this sense of, again, of, the notion of lack of willpower. And so we become inadvertently, we try to become perfectionists in everything else that we do in our life, but we're so overridden with this guilt and this shame that we just inevitably just hard on ourselves. And so when we are clean, it's not necessarily that we've gotten rid of that self-critical side of us. And so, it's the ability to love ourselves again, right?
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If
Right.
we are just continuously hard on ourselves, like how much of that is a choice, right? That's where the gratitude comes in. Because it can always be worse. Like our situation, there's always something to be grateful for. So I think that a lot of that is that the disease thinking too, because it doesn't always sound like, well, I'm going to go have a drink. It sounds like you're a piece of shit and nobody loves you. It sounds like a depression wheel, thought wheel. Right. It's very similar to that, right? And so that's where like the treatment, the other stuff comes in too, because we have to have hope and optimism and to our heart and gratitude. And so if those are the things that are hard to find, I think that's the thing to figure out. Like, how do I get hopeful? How do I get optimistic? How do I get gratitude? Because that's the stuff that counteracts all of those other things, right? That's how you fight that, because it's thing I heard, you stay in that thing, if we stay in that cycle, if we stay in those thoughts, eventually we'll lose. It's just, and sometimes I think that's just the disease's way of getting in and getting a hold of us again.
What is it? Baffling, cunning, powerful. I think that's the three things, right? I'll never forget that, I told Johnny one day, I said, hey, when I was under, like I did all these things that I accomplished in my life, right? And this whole new me, it's like I felt like those things actually helped me, right? To become the things that I was. And he just says, well, just imagine what you're going to be when you're clean. Just imagine what you're going to be able to accomplish when you are clean. And I'm like, never thought about it like that. But he was always dropping nuggets of wisdom.
For sure. We're all very powerful people, I feel like. There's like a lot of addicts and have like all this amazing perseverance inside, because if we can live like that, then we can, really, like, that's one of the hardest ways to live, right? And that's so difficult to get through just a day. So if we're that tough, we can pretty much do anything. That's really sky's the limit. Like, I have there's a girl in our fellowship around here. Her story is, she was from jail to Yale. She went to Yale Law School and she was in prison for a long time. And then she got cleared. And mine is from CPS to CEO. That we all have these like things of like, like all of these gifts and things that, I was like, hey, if we're just like take some of that energy and put it into something positive and put it in and do it in a way that's, I don't know, in a way that's ethical and compassionate and purposeful, because what I didn't have was purpose, and I didn't really have any reason. And when I got clean and I was staying clean, I was wondering, why am I getting this? Why am I able to do this and the next person isn't, and they die, right? Or whatever. So I figured like I had a debt of gratitude. And so a lot of my motivation to do things is because I'm paying it forward. Because I don't know, it just feels like the thing you should do, right? To pay forward this life that I've been given, and to use my talents or whatever I'm good at to, help others or do something meaningful. Not everybody gets that opportunity. So if we do, then we're lucky. We're lucky. We have a responsibility. I
agree with you. And that's definitely two parts to that. Is that I don't think I've ever been surrounded by as many smart, intelligent, brilliant people, and yet at the same time empathetic, caring, than I was at Silicon Valley Recovery, as well as at the IOP that I was at. I've still have a lot of these people in my circle. I feel like I have more friends now than I've ever had in my life. So and people that I could truly trust, rely on, whether just to talk about the day and not get any judgment, or to talk them business advice. I mean, it's crazy how abundant I feel like life's become, and that's a blessing. And I agree with you. The reason my motivation for this podcast was simply that I was like, man, I wish I would have known then what I know now. And so because I do, I feel like there's a lot of great information that's comes from recovery, that if people just get a sliver of it, in some way, shape, and form, and if somebody's struggling with it, doesn't know what recovery looks like, is afraid of it, thinks that they're alone on an island, and they hear this for a minute, they'll recognize, wow, that resonates, and you know what, I get it. They understand the way that I feel, and that's important, because again, I mean, addiction is an isolating experience anyway. That you can extend that proverbial olive branch out. I think that's massive. I want to get into your masters, but before we do that, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And that question is that if somebody walked up to you on the street and says, "Hey, I have a problem. I don't know if I have the ability to go get treatment. I'm scared." If you had a 30-second elevator pitch, what would it be?
What do you have to lose? Are you going to miss out on something? Like, my whole thing is, we know what it's like out there. We know what it's like drinking and using, and like what we get. We know that. We know what's available there. What you don't know is what's available in recovery. So what do you have to lose? Like, just jump in at first, dive in, give it a shot, give it some time, give it 6 months. What do you have to lose? See if your life gets better. See if your depression gets better. See if you don't want to tell yourself anymore. See if your family will talk to you. See it, fill in the blank.
I love it.
I mean,
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so your masters. Tell us about your masters. What was it on?
Oh my gosh. So it's in psychology and addictions. And so I wrote my thesis proposal. My research proposal was on the attachment theory, specifically insecure attachment and opiate use disorder. So there's this part of the brain. It's very involved in neuroscientific and stuff. So I'll keep it short. But
give us the 5th grade answer. Yes.
Yes. I'll check. I'll send it to you. Do you want to read it? It's actually readable. Several people read it and they said it was easy. It was an easier read than they thought it would be. So I'll send it to you. Cool. Children between ages 0 to 5 that don't have attachments to their primary caregiver, they have their limbic system of their brain doesn't develop properly, right? They're like missing the ability to connect because their connection. So attachment, is like responsible for all kinds of things. It's responsible for our safety, and we'll attach to whatever's taking care of us or our baby, even if it's someone abusing us, right? So anyway, it creates deficits in the brain, and also creates some pathways that are there forever, right? The attachment pathways. And there's, all this research about attachment and addiction. People with attachment, when insecure attachments or anxious attachments or any of those, are a high risk of getting an addiction to something, right? And a lot of it has to do with the brain. And I think there's a lot to learn about the brain, and there's no research yet on exactly what's happening in the brain, why we're feeling this, need with certain drugs. And so we know that it causes addiction, but we don't know why and which ones. And so my hypothesis is that, people with an insecure attachment will choose opiates over other drugs because the limbic system has this blue spot in the brain, which is the opiate center of the brain, the reward system, right? And they've done a study where they show that people who are like connecting to somebody, and so say you're sitting there and you're feeling a really great connection with someone, right? And you're in a session with them, or you're with your therapist, or you're with your wife, or you're with your whoever, and you're just feeling that like zing thing that happens when you're really connected deeply, heart connected to someone, right? You see on the brain this little blue spot. They call it the blue spot, the locus coeruleus. The blue spot is brain lights up like a light bulb, right? And it does the exact same thing when you do a shot of heroin. So what it shows is that, well, connection is opposite of addiction. Heard that saying before, right? And that's one of the reasons why, because when we're connecting with people and like we're fellowship, when we have all these friends, we're filling up part of something, we're feeling that same part of the brain fires up that when you put drugs in your body, what fires it up? Same part of the brain. So it's a lot about that, and it's a lot about opiate use disorder and how it's killing people at such a rapid rate. People are dying. I was just thinking the other day, I was like, this is what it was like in the 1800s. Everyone died all the time. Except for you didn't even know it back then because there wasn't this access to information. But we've lost so many people to addiction and opiates specifically that it's staggering. It's almost like, I mean, it's talk about a weird type of grief, And I think it's true in recovery, especially in this field. I mean, there's a lot of reason to do more research on why people choose opiates so that we can figure out how to treat them before that happens. Like you're talking about underlying issues, underlying mental health issues, right? Well, if we know somebody had like insecure attachment from a very young age, then we already know how we need to treat them. We need to help them build secure attachments. I'm always big on attachment theory, and I think the SCR has a lot to the way that I run SCR and my style of counseling and everything indicative of that, because I feel like, first of all, I feel like clients can tell if you're full of shit, so you have to be authentic. You have to be able to like just be real, right? And if you can be real and you can connect with a client, then I feel like there's a chance. So when I am meeting a client for the first time, or I'm there, like my whole job is to be substitute attachment to that person, right? Because they've probably lost all connection, lost most connection, or they don't have a secure, safe connection with anyone that they can trust. So when they come to SDR, I like to be their first, surrogate attachment, right? And so that's why I'm like with the clients and spending time with them. And sometimes I take the client and I'm holding these other counselor, but most of the time I'm just trying to be with them and connect with them and see what they're like and see, and just like get to know them, because all this fancy stuff, all the fancy things, and we do a lot of those fancy things, with very complicated names. But I think like at the end of the day, the most important thing is just being able to connect. Like just being with the client and like knowing that they feel loved and that they feel safe and that they know when they come in, it's their home. This is your house. What do I say to you? It's your house. Like you get to like make yourself comfortable in your house. Although, above and beyond to make sure that clients feel comfortable enough so that they can and breathe and feel safe. Because to me, and in my research and my studies and everything that I work towards academically has shown that is by far the most important thing, especially when someone's coming in terrified and not knowing that. I mean, it's always a miracle to get anybody makes it through the door. It's so scary,
It's interesting because I know that there's this notion of, especially from a family member looking in to someone who they love that's dealing with an addiction, and a lot of the go-to answers was always, hey, you either shape up or ship out. I can't have you in my life doing this, being this way. And it's almost it's counterintuitive what you're saying, right? I mean, it was always I got to kick you out if you can't straighten up, you can't figure this out on your own. And so for somebody that is lacking in connection, and that addiction is filling that hole, it's almost, that's almost the exact opposite response to give to somebody who's struggling in addiction. If anything, you need to hold on to them tighter and nurture them and let them feel loved and connected. And again, there's an education that I feel that's needing to be had on the normie side. That's not, unfortunately, right. There's so much in recovery and understanding addiction, but the people that don't understand addiction and or just have never had a problem like people with with addictions do, that there's opportunity to enlighten those too.
I agree. And I think that part of that is kind of where, we've come out of that tough love. I mean, I'm from the Phil Donahue days where, like, they told my mother, kick her out, that, and that's how it was. And I think it was, and so I think that hopefully we're kind of out of that whole thing. But if there is education needed on learning how to detach with love and support, if it's, because enabling also effects. So there's so it's so hard for people in that situation because it's hard to know what to do, right? Because they don't know how to be like, I can help you, but I'm also not going to help you. Like, I'll help you with this, I'll help you with that. And sometimes, I mean, people are so caught in their addiction. Every situation is different, but sometimes people are so caught in their addiction and it's so life or death that if they don't stop enabling them, and then they'll die, But then, like a Sunday, you kick your son out. He smokes pot every day. Why do you let you? And be like, my donuts. If he gets the problem, what's up, then, because you can't tell people that. You can't tell people, like, because they've reached their own bottom when they're ready, but you have to be, like, willing to, like, plan their funeral if you're going to do that kind of hungry. And I don't think it's fair for professionals to be giving that advice because people, you can tell people what, like, these are some options, and that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. But I think you can do it with compassion. People don't know how to set boundaries compassionately and say, like, I love you, and this is what, we just know how, like, turn people away, right? Because it's painful for us. It's painful to say, I'm hurt, I'm scared. It's easier to say, fuck off, I can't deal with you, Yeah. Very complicated.
Yeah, no, I like it. Yeah. All right, so SVR. But you guys are located in San Jose, California, South Bay, San Francisco Bay Area. And you now have a 37-day program. It's inpatient. I know that there's a mental health aspect to it. But explain to me what's the spiel? How does Silicon Valley think about addiction and treatment, and how does it go about doing it?
Well, I mean, we, every client is different. So we all, we kind of look at each client in a way that our mission is to provide a higher level of services that's been provided in recent years for clients in just a unique environment. So, you only went to us, so you don't know this case better. But we have people that can hear it, and I've worked to hit places before where they're all like in network facilities, and there's no money for like therapy and co-occurring, or they say are co-occurring, it's co-occurring lives, because if you have this insurance, you can see a psychiatrist. So if you don't, then sorry, you're out of luck. But, you really just wanted to have something where everybody got the same services and they were just a really high level of services. We've even grown a lot since you were there. I mean, in the last year, we have 2 on-site therapists now, free, Jerry also. And then we've got, a lot of counselors, and we've just like our team is really dialed in. We've had at like a real focus on health and nutrition. Our chef, Christian, I don't think he was there when we were there, but, everything is like plated and healthy, and, we're all eating really healthy. And I was like, man, this is, we wanted it, but it's still like a lot of you come to treatment and then they just eat a bunch of junk food. And I'm really big on exercise and nutrition is huge. It plays a huge part in brain healing and in recovery. So I like to, make sure that, we start with healthy choices, other than just not using. But we really do believe in treating the whole person. So we have an internal medicine doctor who comes once a week to see clients and that. We've got the psychiatrist, we've got the therapist, so they do like lots of therapy and counseling. And, equine, acupuncture, yoga, sound bath, all of those fun things too. But I think like the main thing, my main message is that we want to provide a higher level of services. We want people to feel like they're home and feel connected right away. We want them to just feel like they can breathe and relax and that they're safe. And that's really the most important thing. And I think one way to do that is treating clients with lots of dignity and respect. I know that that's just that people say, oh, well, sure, you treat everyone. But there's a lot about that. And like sugar stars, there's a lot of like, there's a door, come let it get you on the way out, like that kind of attitude, or this very like harsh approach. And, or like, there's this vibe of us against them with the clients and staff. And so whenever I feel that happening, this kind of idealistic view and definition, it's not easy. It actually takes constant effort. So when I feel that happening, we have to do a lot to maintain a non-toxic environment like that and maintain that homeostasis of everybody feeling like we're there to help them. And that customer service, we're there to help them. And we have rules, and yes, we have limits, because those are important. You asked us to help you with that. Like, this is what we have to do to like keep everybody safe and to treat the whole community. But we really do give a shit about what the clients say. We really do care how they think. I have interviews with people and like get suggestions, all of that. It has to do with the leadership and the staff. Right? I think, in order for the clients to get good treatment, the staff has to be a certain way. So my whole thing has been, in order for me to focus on the clients getting what they need and being treated the way that they deserve to be treated, then I have to develop the staff. So, we've had people that were not a good fit, and we had to let them go, because this kind of environment isn't for everybody. There's certain people that just won't do good in a non-toxic work environment or in a team that's like, we're really team focused, right? Like my leadership style is very and very transformative, right? We're innovative. Like, we're always working together to try and do things better. And there was no, and I always thought my staff to feel supported and feel heard. And so my staff is my case. Jerry, Johnny, Sam, Chef, they're all my caseload. So I do one-on-ones with them every week. I talk about like what's going on with their job, what do they need, and I go there with the attitude that I work for them, not the other way around. What do you need to be able to make your job better? Like how Alicia is our nurse director. She's awesome. She was one of our first clients. Okay. Which is such a fun story. Wow. She was one of our first 6 clients when we opened, and she was there. Girl, I'm an RN. I'm going to come back and work here. I was like, okay. Sure. Yes, she did. And now she runs the whole department. Anyways, wow. But, they need to feel supported so that their staff feels supported, so that the clients feel supported. Because that's the key right there. It's like, you build it that way. Because the clients will just, they'll only do as much as your staff is doing. No. Every day is energetic. So if the staff is
Right.
then the client's going to be like that, you know? It's really interesting, right? So, yeah, so we just work on like people, having the right people there that are, team oriented, that are living open, right? Like I am an open book. So if I'm going through something in my personal life, everybody knows it. They all know probably more than you about me, but we just kind of live out loud with our personal stuff because this field is so different. Like this industry is so different. You have to have professional boundaries, and you have to have that. That's very important. But we are dealing with this like so much emotional energy all the time. So there's all this transference, counter transference, and you're picking up on people's energy, and you're with clients, and they're going through, and they're telling you about their trauma that's exactly what your trauma or whatever is happening, or just things that you can't really even describe that you're picking up on. And there's just all this stuff, right? Triggers, right? Little things. And so when you're dealing with that kind of environment and you're working in that kind of environment, you have to have a safe place also. It has to be safe. You're like, I gotta go home, or I don't know what's wrong, but I just like I know that you have to be able to have a supervisor that you can go to, right? That you feel safe with. And because you just can't treat people the same way that you do in other fields. You have to treat them with a lot of care and consideration and just gentleness, and so that they feel like they're part in something and not, I don't know. So I think we've really accomplished that. But like I said, it takes constant effort. But our clients are really happy. And I know when things get go off, because we'll have a bunch of AMAs. We'll get like a bunch of people leave treatment. And then like something's not right with the staff. And then we're like kind of drilling, okay. And I'll interview clients like, what's going on? Yeah, always tell me what's going on. And and unfortunately not everybody's a good fit. But when you take out the one that's not a good fit, like things change and it settles the energy and things shift around, But it's usually we get people in there that are just like, real authoritative, and that's just not our style, so it just doesn't work, But that's fine. That's a good style to have in other places, just not ours. If that makes sense.
They there's definitely an authenticity that needs to be had in your type of work. There's definitely a level of trust, intrinsic trust, because obviously I'm coming into you with a huge problem that I'm trying to get rid of, and I don't know you, you don't know me, but the only way this is going to work is if we're vulnerable, if we're authentic, if we're true to ourselves and to each other. And I can tell you that for me, it was definitely a metamorphosis throughout those 30 days. I came in basically broken, but I was at the point where, like I said, I was done. So I was willing for, if somebody needed to, basically throw me in a padded room and lock the door and throw away the key for a couple of weeks, if that's what it was going to take, I'm just like, yep, sign me up. That's apparently what it takes. So, but it's definitely there's definitely a feeling of aloneness, right? Going into a treatment center. You don't know anybody. You're now battling with your own demons. And I know, I started journaling as soon as I got into there. And I remember, the first couple of days, of course, I was on Ativan. So it was like, okay, this isn't so bad. But I know by day 5, I literally wrote on my journal the fuck just across every line on every page. I just wrote fuck. Like what did I do to myself? And what have I gotten into? And, but one of the saving graces was definitely the compassion from the staff. I was able to talk freely about the things that I had done in my addiction without any feeling of being judged. So that was liberating. There was this level of compassion. There was this level of patience. And I know they say that the first 15 days goes by so slow. The second 15 days just flies by. And that's exactly the way it was. I had felt empowered by the time I was leaving there. I definitely felt changed. And I felt, yeah, I felt loved. I mean, I definitely felt loved. I felt like I got myself a new posse, a posse that understood me, people that I could talk to if I ever needed to, um, in the good times and bad. And I'm forever grateful for it. I definitely think that SVR should consider doing some sort of an IOP system as well, because I know
Working
that
on
when I left there, are you good? Good.
yeah.
Because I know when I left there, I was in this limbo for like a week and a half at my house before I started IOP, and I realized I'm like, okay, well that was pretty abrupt, right? It was
Yeah.
really abrupt. So I needed to get into a more, another layer of this to keep this wheel churning. Yeah, the IOP that was recommended, that I know that SVR researched for me, that was local out here in the Tri Valley. It was a perfect fit, and I slept right into that system and spent 36 sessions, 12 weeks, and
Nice.
it was beautiful. And now I go to an aftercare program every week, and I'm in contact with a lot of people from it, and life just kind of now moves on. I got a promotion. The irony is, right, is that after this I got a promotion. And so yeah, so life is good. Not to say there won't be bad times, but I feel better equipped to deal with it. And I know that had I not been able to address my mental health in recovery, I don't think I would have been as successful. And I
Yeah.
know that has been so pivotal for me. The ability to work with my meds and to try to find, what was truly going on, what was going to work. It was liberating because it kind of it helped me understand myself better. What was the cause, both just from a therapeutic side, but as well as just purely biology side.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'm like I said, I'm forever grateful.
Well, I'm so proud of you.
This has been great, Sonja. Thank you, thank you. I love you guys. You guys are awesome.
So,
And you'll
do you
always
go
have
to
an advocate in me. What was that?
do you go to the Thursday alumni meeting?
You know what I do sometimes when I get a chance. I actually spoke when Sam was out of town. So
Oh,
I
good.
did do a speaking. What was really interesting? It was something and again, it's a testament to SVR, and also just really working through the mental health aspect in addition to the addiction. But when I got coined out, I had written down kind of like what I wanted to say, right? The time was mine to get coined when I got coined
Yeah.
out that night. And I remember like the pen was flowing. It was 25. It was easy took 25, 30 minutes to kind of give my spiel, right? And then when I came back and I did the talk, on the Thursday night, where I was the guest speaker,
Yeah.
the irony is that I was struggling to fill 15 minutes. And I recognized that was all because of the healing that had taken place.
Yeah.
The gravity of the things that had happened in my life wasn't as heavy as they used to be.
Oh, I love it.
And that's a blessing because it means that it's not that heavy in my heart. It's something that I've reconciled, and yeah, I think it's just amazing. I reflected upon that after I was done that night, and I was just like, wow, I used to ruminate on this stuff, and now I'm just kind of like, all right, let's get on with it. Let's go get recovered. Let's go live life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
The myth is that whole once an addict, always an addict. And I think addicts are the ones who subscribe to that more than anyone else. Like a lot of people just feel like they're just not going to be able to do it. But the fact is that anyone can do it if they choose to. And I always tell people too, this is my favorite thing to tell clients. Sometimes I can tell clients, sometimes I can't. It depends on the client. You really like feel like what things you can say, because people come in serious addiction, but denial of their addiction. They just think that they're fine and it's my wife with the problem. I call them boot drying hundred layers. But what I like to tell clients, if I'm able to tell a client this, and I think they're able to hear it, is that The ones, and it's true, the ones that I have, because I was a counselor for about 5 years and used a lot of, I had old clients that are still like 10 years sober, 10 years sober, 9 years sober, a bunch that are still sober. And the one thing that they have in common is they all came into my office and they all said, I'll just do whatever you say. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, I'm done. I just like, tell me I would do this and I'm going to listen to you. It's like, if I said, go like this for 10 minutes every day and you'll stay clean and sober, would you do that? Or are you going to argue with me about it? Because it's not a matter of like the thing that you're doing. Like, it's great. I think outpatient, all that is so important. And we push people to do that. But I kind of wonder if it's not so much the thing that they're doing, but just the willingness to do whatever someone else is suggesting for a change, right? Like, willingness is a lot of it. Like, that surrender, that letting go, that like, okay, if you say so, I'll be doing this for 10 minutes every day. If you say that's gonna work, then I'll do it. Anyway, I think that's I think there's a lot more to the willingness piece than all of the other things. Yeah. That
No,
doesn't answer that
I think that's
question,
great. I think that's awesome. That's okay. No, I think that that's just it. I mean, we want, because again, I mean, if it was as simple as that, somebody would have created a book 1,000 years ago that said, do step 1 through 5, the end. And
right.
we know that's not it.
Yeah,
So,
it's
and
not
that's important. But that's also the beauty of it.
right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a tailored, it's a personal thing. I mean, addiction is a personal thing. How we get there, what we're using, why we're using, dependency, how dependent we are on it. And
The million
yeah,
dollar question.
but I think that that's also the beauty of it.
Right. The million dollar question, Misty, is how do you get somebody to that point? How do you get somebody to be willing? And how do you get them to, right? So that's why we get trained in all of this motivational interviewing and stuff like that, because it has to be your idea, not mine. So I have to ask you the right questions to get you to have the idea of, oh wait, I'll do anything to stay clean and sober. And sometimes that doesn't happen. I'm like, you're lucky you came in and you're just done. I'm like, I'm done. So I wish you I'm done. It doesn't happen like that with everybody, right? Sometimes it takes longer to get to that point. Like, it took me several months to get to the point where I was like, okay, no. But I still did the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But anyway. Yeah. But that's really
No, I mean, and again, I mean, I prayed, I was praying over the porcelain throne back in, I remember it distinctly. It was like back in like 2006. And I'm looking at my wife going, why do I do this to myself? And so, but here I am, in 2023, finally getting help. So, I mean, I mean, I came in done, but I had battled with it and just thinking, no, I can control it. I can this, I can that for a long time, right? Nobody saw it. There was never an attempt to get clean until it was the attempt. And it was just the true attempt, or it was my own. I was going to do it my way. I was stronger than that. I had the willpower. I had the this, I had the that. I had the strength. And what do they say? They say that the strong ones seek help, the weak ones don't. And so I find comfort in that. Yeah. Sonja, this has been great. I think this is a great way to end it. Thank you so much for spending time. This is Sonja Dahl, CEO of Silicon Valley Recovery, located in San Jose, California. My name is Dusty Dean with the Addicts Advocate, and you have a good night, okay?
Thank you, Dusty. You too. Thanks for having me. It's been really fun.
Thank you.